Your saltwater guide, Captain Dave Hansen, and the great Bill Varney. We're here today together. Listen to this, Bill. I want you to know Kelly and I were so close to your house yesterday. We spent an hour in the Denver airport.
It's a
What a
lovely place.
Oh my gosh, it was raining, it was blowing, it was freezing ass cold. My gosh, I'm like, wow. And Kelly's all, Bill lives around here. I go, yep, Bill lives around there.
I
we're we're in Oskaloosa, Iowa today. Kelly and I just had lunch with her son, and we're looking forward to seeing him graduate on Friday night. We're super excited. But we are in Oskaloosa, and Bill, there's so much water around here.
mm.
It's incredible. I was driving around with Kelly. I'm like, I know there's a fish in that piece of water. I know there's got to be a fish in that piece of
I
water.
know.
Got out of the car though, and guess what else is there?
Mm.
Mosquitoes.
Ooh. Oh no.
Hello.
They're already there.
I'm just itching thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm not fishing. I'm not
Yeah,
fishing.
really.
So
Yeah,
what?
my son lived in Omaha for a couple of years. And there was so much water around there. There's a huge river that goes through there, Missouri River or something. There was all of these lakes, and I would drive around just like drooling for bass fishing to make a cast there. Just incredible how many lakes there was and how much water. And then I don't know about you, Dave, but I like drive around. Nobody fishing. Like they have like little docks going out. Nobody on the docks.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't know.
I don't
It's
know
weird.
either.
There's no one fishing here, but then we got out of the car and then we saw the mosquitoes. Maybe that's it. I don't know. I don't know. But Bill, there's all kinds of stuff going on. Finally, it looks like we might have some decent weather this weekend. I was listening to the weatherman for Orange County this morning. He's saying 75, 80 degrees this weekend on the beach
Just going to
and
be beautiful this weekend on the beach.
90 degrees inland in the deserts. It looks like maybe we're starting to get rid of that wind. And historically, you and I both know March and April are windy, period.
Yes.
You can
Yeah.
go back and watch a Bill and I show last year at that time, or you can go back and look at all my podcasts. March and April, they're windy. We are in May, and it's hard to believe that we're in May. We're way in it now. So everything's starting to happen. There's so much fun fishing. I hear guys putting reports out for you about the surf fishing, Jason Cutter, Matt Ryan, all the different people talking about all the different things they have to fish for on the beach, which is pretty cool. And then offshore, that bluefin kind of slipped down the line a little bit, but there's been some yellows over at Clemente, and the sea bass are trying to bite. There's
Mhm.
starting to be squid all over the place again. It looks like we're in store for some phenomenal fishing this weekend. What about the beach? What do you see?
Yeah, what we're seeing is like last 7-day period, last week, for example, just like you said, Dave, we had like a couple of great days of weather, decent weather, and all of a sudden we had the low or the storm come through. And it's the same as all these storms we had all winter, not very strong from a rain standpoint, not a lot of water, which is kind of a typical El Nino setup, but always wind associated with it, and as people will see on the Saltwater Guide weekly report on our game plan coming out this week for me, they'll see that last week we had less fish in the fish count simply because when you I mean, tell me this isn't true. When you get up in the morning before the sun comes up and the wind is already blowing at the beach, you're not going to go down to the beach and stand in the water. It's freezing cold down there already, and that just makes it worse. And it kind of slows down the fishing to some extent, depending on how windy it is. So we definitely had less people on the water. Well, coming up now, starting really tomorrow, and then tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, those are going to be 3 incredible days to be on the water. Very little wind, warm, sunny, and beautiful. Then we have another low pressure zone. And I really think this is going to be the last storm we see out of Alaska. And this is going to come down the California coast. It's kind of a cutoff low, so we don't know if it's going to swing inland or it's going to go a little bit offshore. They're saying it's going to be a bit offshore and it's going to produce some rain and also some wind associated with that. So we're going to see that Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. And then I think, Dave, once that's over, the look at the long term weather looks like it's going to warm up and we're going to get right back into our normal June gloom, where we've got that fog in the morning at the beach, which is so good for surf fishing. Burns off about 10:30 or 11 in the morning. They have a beautiful day at the beach, and then the evening comes. So I think we just have one more week of this to deal with, and we'll be back to being on top of it.
It's something I was thinking of couple days ago. My buddy Ron and I went over to Los Barillas before we came up here to Iowa, and we were just kind of kicking around. And the for me in Cabo, it seems like the bite is in the morning before the sun gets on the water, and then it's in the afternoon when the sun sets for that last hour. Is that have any kind of relevance to what goes on in Southern California surf fishing? Is it like that, or is it an all day? Just the tide is more influence than what we have down here in Mexico.
Well, first of all, tide has a huge influence on surf fishing. It's probably the number one. Like if I was to say, I've got 5 conditions: wind and this and that, and then tide is one of them. I'm always going to look at tide first. Down in the East Cape, we have a very small tidal change. As we get farther north in the northern hemisphere or farther south in the southern hemisphere, closer to the poles, we have much larger tidal swings. For example, take England, for example. So England is up around where about Massachusetts would be, roughly, if you look straight across the Atlantic there. It has a tidal change from low tide to high tide, or high tide to low tide, of about 17 feet. Our maximum is only about 8 or 8.5 feet. So the tide has something to do with it, but time of day is only important in the following cases. So sometimes for Corbina fishing early in the season, for perch fishing, those are normally better in the morning and the evening. But Corbina fishing, particularly in the middle of the summer when the water is at its warmest and still warming, is good really all day long. But what really has a big effect on, time of day, let's say, is simply the fact of how many people are at the beach. So if I go to the beach at sunrise and I stay till 10 in the morning and there's hardly any feet in the water, either there's nobody out there running around or the surfers are outside, I'm going to have much better fishing than I'm going to have in the middle of the day in July when you got tens of thousands of little kids and parents and stuff running around in the shallows of the water. That basically, it doesn't really scare the fish, but it takes the fish off of their bite, off of their time for them to find forage, where they'll go offshore or they'll go to areas where it'll be quieter. And then when the beach quiets down at about 3 in the afternoon, they flood back into the sand, and that's where they are. So many times in the summer, although you can catch them in the middle of the day, some of your best fishing's in the morning and the evening when there's not so many feet in the water.
Okay. I understand that, but why do you think it's such a big deal down in Cabo, down there in Mexico, where it's pretty much and the local guys like Wes and a lot of the deckhands that worked with me over the years and stuff, the guys that have grown up there, after 9 o'clock in the morning, you won't find them fishing on the beach. They're done. They're not going near the beach until sunset. And why do you think it's such a is it that because we don't have that giant massive tide swing like you guys have? Is it big? What do you think the real reason is? I want to know. That's why I'm
I do
asking.
not think the tide has anything to do with that whatsoever. It's such a small tidal change along the East Cape. What really has a huge effect on it is the clarity of the water. And one of the reasons the water is so clear on the East Cape is because there's so little surf action, A, and B, there's so little in the water. For example, there's not kelp or eelgrass or all that stuff floating around. And that's why when you're offshore the East Cape, and it could be any time of day, 3 in the afternoon, and you go by a turtle, and it's in August, let's say, and you go by a turtle, there's 50 Dorado underneath it because it's the only shade that's out there. So what you'll notice at the beach when it comes to like the ladyfish and the sardinia and the other type of quote unquote bait fish on the East Cape is that those bait fish, which have basically nowhere to hide, come in the evening and early morning very close to shore, and that's where they feed. And so as the sun comes up, and because of the clarity of the water and so forth, they know they're going to get eaten. And so they go out and they spread out, or they go to deeper water until later in the day when there's less light and they're less available to be food. I mean, I can't imagine how many times I've seen it. And I know you live there, so you've seen it, where I'm walking along the beach in the evening and there's a ball of like sardinia, just like, I mean, I can almost reach them from the dry sand, and a big fish, a dorado or a rooster fish, comes plowing through them, and half a dozen of them fly up on the sand, and I hook one on my hook and use it for bait. They come in very, very close at those late times of day and early in the morning because that's when the bait is close to shore. And Dave, you'll also notice that with the pongeros who go out to catch your bait for you. Now it's gotten a lot easier because they've gone inside the harbor up there at the East Cape, which is unfortunately built, and it's easier for them to catch. But in the past, they would corral them basically with the ponga, and then they would throw a net over them close to shore. And that was always done in the evening right before it got dark or first thing in the morning, because that bait scatters and's gone by the time 10 o'clock in the morning comes along.
Thank you, because that's kind of what I thought. It's the clarity of the water, and as soon as you throw some light on it, everybody can see and
Yep.
everybody scatters. And the fish aren't stupid. They're like, well, there's no other bait fish except for your one stupid lure swimming through the water. We know it's not a fish. So
Exactly.
we're not going to bite it. We had a phenomenal show Friday. I don't know if you got to see it or not. I had
Yeah.
Brian from Promar and Justin and myself. And I think this is something you and I need to talk about, because this
Mhm.
show was so good and we had so many views and we had so many comments. And Promar, they can't even tell you how many orders they got. So I think that right now, with the shift being May, we're going into the season. Bill, I want you to sit here through the show. Your website has so many things that people need to have. We need to talk about the essentials. If I'm going, Dave Hans, I just called you up. I've never been. I just signed up. I'm a member of your bundles over there at your Saltwater Guide. What do I have to have? What are the go-to things I'm going to go surf fishing with? I'm not going, like we talked with Duke the other day. I'm not going to show up with a forklift in the morning and drop all my tackle off on the beach. What am I going to need? What do I need? Is a measuring stick? Do I need a net because it's the law on a boat? Is it the law on the water? What are all the things Bill Varney's going to tell me? And gang, this is super important. This is what everybody got off on Friday, because we really hit on a lot of good things. So listen to what Bill has to say, because this is going to make or break you on having a good time down on the beach. And you don't want to drag a bunch of crap that you
Mhm.
don't need down there, because that's not enjoyable. It's not. And if you bring an extra rod and you laid it down on a rock or something, and then you turned around and it blew over in the wind, that reel's done. You're done. You throw that in
Yeah.
the trash. You're never going to get it back. And these are all the things I think, Bill, people need to know. So can you go over that today? I think that would be awesome.
Sure, sure. That was a great show, and I learned a lot actually. And it's really great for Promar to come out and talk about these different things like the net and the net size and all that. Dave, that is a question I have, and I have to look into it. Really, when you started talking, well, when I watched the show on Friday, I started thinking about it. When you're on a boat, like I have to look at the regulations. It requires that you have a net, a landing net for halibut. And it might
Every
be,
fish.
yeah, it might be applicable. Oh, every fish. Okay.
Every fish, you have to have a net. If you signed your fishing license, therefore you are a licensed angler and you're on a boat, you must have a landing net.
That is a really good question. Do you need that on the beach? Because often you're landing, well, if not often, all the time. You're landing your fish on the sand, which doesn't hurt the fish particularly. And so do you need a net? But like you said, the language of the law, it does leave for a gray area. And that's one thing I do know about the wardens, who I have a couple really good friends who are wardens, have told me, as they said, when they wrote our laws, there's so many gray areas in them that we have a lot of leniency on what we can do. And why that is good is because we have leniency. Why that is bad is that we can't go out and specifically let people know exactly what they need to do to be legal. So what that does is it kind of leads everybody to be maybe illegal and then be at the mercy of the warden. So that's something we need to look into and try to figure that out. When they changed the rule on collecting sand crabs, an emergency a provision that they did about a year and a half ago, that really threw people into a tizzy, because what had happened was they were trying to regulate the taking of clams, but clams fell into the same category as sand crabs, ghost shrimp, and clams. And so they said, well, with clams, you can't use this equipment. Well, with clams, sand crabs, and ghost shrimp, you can't use this equipment, but here's some of the ones you can use. But they didn't include a lot of the ones that we commonly use in the surf, like a colander, for example, to strain our sand crabs through. So I called my buddies, the warden. I said, hey, here's the deal. You guys have changed the law. How do you look at that? Oh, well, we have all this latitude, and based on that, no, we wouldn't care at all if you use something like that, but it does not state that that's allowable in the law. So I know that's all confusing. So yeah, let's first start out with our rigging, how we're going to want to rig in the surf. And this is going to be the same most of the time when you're bait fishing, and that could either be live bait, like ghost shrimp and worms and clams and sand crabs and all that stuff, or that could be you could be fishing lures like a crocodile Castmaster. That's going to require a different setup for sure. But this would be the setup for grubs, gulp, and any type of live or fresh dead bait that you're going to use. So 90% of the time, we're going to use the Carolina rig. Carolina rig is really simple. So when we're thinking about going down to the beach, we call this type of surf fishing light line surf fishing for a reason. And we're not only talking about the line, the fishing line being light, we're talking about all the equipment we need. How many times have we gone fishing for albacore, some of you who are maybe a little bit older, and you'd go out on the boat and there'd be a guy who was catching all the fish, and he had a pack of hooks in his top pocket. And that's all he had. No tackle box, no nothing else. You need to figure out what are the minimal things that you need to take with you to the beach, and you need to stock up on those and forget about everything else in your tackle box. So when we're using this rig, it's made up of a sliding sinker. This is a sliding egg sinker. I talk about this in more detail coming up this week on our game plan. So sliding sinker can be anywhere between an 1/8 ounce and a 1 ounce sliding sinker. The rule on your egg sinker: bigger the surf, the heavier the sinker. The smaller the surf, the lighter the sinker. The reason for that: surf fish all feed on the bottom. Every one of them digs around in the sand down there to try to get clams and crabs and worms and all kinds of things. None of them are up here by the surface where all the bonita or the smelt or the mackerel or maybe even a sea bass is up there. They're all on the bottom. So the bigger the surf, the heavier the sinker, the smaller the surf, the lighter the sinker. If I was to go out on a day in November where Santa Ana conditions and the waves are 1 foot, I'd use a really light sinker. If I was to go out in the afternoon and I see white caps, I'm going to use up to a 1 ounce sinker. More times than not, 1/2 ounce or 3/4 ounce are going to be the ones I'm going to start with. And then below that is a bead. Now this bead is a red bead. You can see that bead is red. Colored beads work very well for perch fishing. So you can use red and gold and orange and chartreuse and green and all these different colors. They're not very smart fish. I mean, nothing against the perch that are watching right now, but they're really not the smartest fish out there. So we're going to use a colored bead, and that attracts them. When the summer comes, and I would say that that's May 1st to October 1st, I'm always going to use a clear bead. And the reason I need a clear bead is that Corbina have very keen eyesight. As a matter of fact, their eyesight is so good that they can see me standing on the beach. That's how well they can see. So when I surf fish, I normally surf fish with a blue or a white shirt on, if I'm going to wear a shirt, and then khaki shorts or khaki swim trunks. So when those fish look up the beach, I look just like sand standing up there. So I'm going to use a clear bead for the Corbina, and then below that, I'm going to use a swivel. I use a black swivel. The reason I use black rather than chrome-plated or brass is because, you know, how the sun comes out every once in a while out of the clouds, out of the fog at the beach. When it shines down on my swivel, it shines right up like a piece of jewelry. I don't want that to happen. If you want to catch a big fish, how did big fish get big? They got big by being smart. A 22-inch Corbina is over 15 years old. It didn't just eat anything that came by it. It looked for things that occurred naturally in the area where it lived. So I want that swivel to lay down in the sand and look natural, not have the sun off, you know, beating off of it. Below that is my leader material. I use 6-pound fluorocarbon leader. That leader is anywhere from 8 inches to 36 inches. Well, what makes the difference between 8 inches or 36 inches? If I was to fish, and once again, we go back to these rules of the swell, just like the sinker. The bigger the surf, the shorter your leader. If my leader is 36 inches long and the waves are chest high, let's say, my bait's going to be way up here. Remember, all surf fish feed on the bottom. So the bigger the surf, the shorter your leader. So in surf that's chest high or larger, 8 inches to 12 inches long. Usually I'm going to fish around 18 inches in length of my leader. And the exception to that would be really calm conditions, November, Santa Ana, maybe a 36-inch leader is what I'm going to use. So now that we've figured out that part of the equation, other than tides, probably one of the most important things to surf fishing, without question, is your hook. Now, why is the hook so important? Like Dave and I have fished with rusty hooks before, and as long as the hook didn't break, we caught a fish. Well, when you fish in most places, like in a boat or on a dock or off a pier, you're perpendicular to the fish. In other words, your line is going straight up along the side of the fish's head and up to where you're fishing up above. If you get a bite, even if you had a rusty hook, if you set the hook hard enough, it's going to go right into the top of that fish's mouth. But when you're surf fishing, it would be like me casting out to you watching. You're straight out from me. So all the fish has to do when you go to set the hook is open its mouth and it will come straight out because you're not perpendicular anymore. You're parallel to the fish. So what we do is we use very thin wire, very sharp hooks. And the moment we feel a bite, we reel down and lift our rod up. 9 out of 10 times we'll have the fish. So here's one example. This is the Owner Mosquito Light. Let's see if I get the angle right there. And these are, I use a size 1, 2, or 4. 1 would be the biggest, a big sand crab. 4 would be the smallest. So that is the Owner Mosquito Light. And those are the 4105. And then this hook is the Gamakatsu split shot drop shot hook. It's actually a freshwater bass hook. Works unbelievably well in the surf. This hook number is the 50409. And these work really, really well in the surf because they're super sharp. And that's one thing about surf fishing. People in the past, me in the past, I'd go to a spot, I'd cast out as far as I could out there, and I'd let my bait sit on the bottom. And I would hope a fish would swim around and find my bait, and I'd get a bite and I'd catch a fish. We fish completely differently now, not only with lighter equipment, but we're actually casting and slowly retrieving to shore and hunting for fish over a massive amount of surface area. So the first thing you want to remember when you're fishing the Carolina rig is cast your bait out. I use a fan casting motion where I cast 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock. So I'd cover as much area as possible. And then I slowly retrieve towards shore, always keeping all the slack out of my line. The second you feel a pull on your line, or what would be a bite, because remember, there's nothing to snag there. It's all sand. So if you feel a tug, that's a fish. That's not a rock coming up and grabbing your line. The moment you feel a tug on your line, you want to reel down and lift your rod up immediately. And the reason for that is that all surf fish eat the same. They inhale their food, they crush it in the back of their throat, and they spit it out, and then they eat the individual pieces. Well, you know what happens, Dave? They don't eat the pieces that has a piece of metal in it. So how many times has our listeners made a cast at the beach, gotten a bite or a couple of bites, didn't get the fish, reeled in and looked at the sand crab? It's still on my hook. The hook's in the same place, but all the legs and the eggs are gone. How could it eat around the hook? I mean, that question bothered me for decades until I finally found out and realized, and I learned a lot by diving and watching the fish, that the surf fish, they inhale, they crush, they spit it out. So the second you feel a tug on your line, reel down, you got the fish. Time out. I can't hear you.
I love you, Bill. You're great. You're awesome. I love you. But you know what? I asked you to tell us, what do we need to have, not how do we need to catch them. And you're like me. We get off on a tangent and off we go. But everybody's still standing here. They haven't put one thing in their tackle bag yet. They don't know
Okay.
So real quick though, gang, I've been talking. Why I was offline. I was talking to Okuma trying to figure out. We're going to show you guys a really cool video right now of the Komodo reel. I love this reel. I want you to check this reel out, okumafishingusa.com, and we're going to jump back in with Bill because Bill's like me. We love fishing, and when we get talking about fishing and all of a sudden we're using that hook and that bead and we know why we're doing it, and then, yeah, we're off to fishing for 20 minutes, and then, well, wait a minute. The guy's standing there now. He's got a red bead and a hook, but he doesn't know what else to put in his box. Check this video out real quick that John Bretza made for us. And John Bretza is going to be with us on Don Hansen Day, which is going to be absolutely spectacular, gang, on the 15th. We're super looking forward to it. Not only is John Bretza going to be there, the president of product development, but the president of the whole company, the president of Okuma, Alwyn's going to be there with us too, fishing. It's going to be just a fun-filled day. Wayne, now that he's retired, he has all this free time. Wayne Coda's going to come fishing with us on Don Hansen Day. It's going to be epic. My sister and my brother have allowed us to use the Clemente for Don Hansen Day. That was the pride of the fleet my dad built in Huntington Beach. That's going to be a spectacular day. Unbelievable day. But I just want you to see this video, and then we're going to get back to Bill filling up your box with what you need so you don't need a forklift. Hold on a second.
This is a reintroduction of the Komodo series. What we've done is we've upgraded the pinion gear from brass to stainless steel. Still features a stainless steel main gear. All new cosmetics that you'll see. There's no red accents like previous. Now it'll match any rod out there in the market that you use. The 350 will come with 6 high-performance ball bearings. The 450 will come with 7 high-performance ball bearings. The carbon fiber drag system outputs 25 pounds of drag pressure on 350 sizes. When you get to the 450, you'll output 30 pounds of drag pressure. Huge amount of drag for this type of reel. And when you get to the 350, we have a 6.4 to 1 gear ratio, 31 inches of line pickup. On the 450 size, we'll offer 2 different gear ratio options. A 6.3 to 1 gear ratio with 33.5 inches of line pickup, as well as a 7.1 to 1 gear ratio with 37.7. We're gonna offer 2 different handle options. We have the paddle handle like the one in my right hand, as well as a power handle in my left hand. We can offer that in every model, both the 350 and the 450.
I'm going to use that big power handle. I love that reel. That reel is so fun, so good to use. It feels so good in your hand, the low profile, level wind. But all right, Bill, I'm going to throw the QR code up there while you're talking. But how many spools do I want? 6 pound floor? Do I want 10, 12? What do I need for me to go for the day, I know we're going to get into fishing quick the minute you start to talk about those Corvina and the red bead and all that. But let's get back to what do I need for a rod? What do I need for a reel? Basic, because, gang, the thing about what Bill teaches you is light line fishing on the beach, where most of us have grown up seeing that 900-foot long spinning rod and a giant torpedo sinker, and they throw it as far out into the ocean as they can. And they're bringing down a tackle box that weighs 20 pounds because it's full of those torpedo sinkers. Bill Varney taught me a long time ago. My board shorts, a little bag in my board shorts, and I'm pretty much set. But go back to that for a minute, Bill. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, well, the first thing is, like you said, the rod and reel combination. So I like to use a, and I like to use a, having a collapse of gear. I like to use a 7 to 9 foot steelhead rod. Okay, so Okuma makes the SST, it makes the SP model. The basic thing and the most important thing when you're starting out is you want to have a 7 to 9 foot rod that is basically a trout rod. And then you want to match that up with a reel that's a 2,500 or a 3,000 size spinning reel. This is the Penn Battle 2 3,000 size. And of course, there's the great Okuma Avenger reels. There's a lot of different choices on reels. So 7 to 9 foot rod, spinning reel, 2,500 size, 4,000 at your largest size. I usually stick around 2,500 or 3,000. I load it up with 6-pound monofilament. The reason I use monofilament rather than braid is that when you're bait fishing and you have this single hook and these hooks are super sharp, you want to be able to bring that fish into shore, of course, without ripping that hook out of its mouth. So you're going to need some stretch in the line. So I use 6-pound monofilament, and the reason that we need that, once again, is it's got that stretch. And then the other things that you're going to need in your box is, of course, you're going to need all of the components that you need for your Carolina rig. So that's going to be, of course, your sinkers. I'm going to fish anywhere from 1/8 ounce to 1 ounce egg sinkers. I'm going to have, of course, like we talked about, the hooks. I'm going to have the swivels. I'm normally going to have those swivels in 3 sizes. So I'm going to have the 10, the 12s, and the 14s. All of those things are going to be really important for your tackle box. In addition to that, I'm going to use my bait holder. So if I'm going to have sand crabs, worms, bloodworms, legworms, clams, mussels, all of those different things, I'm going to use one of these. This is an Alvi. We can't get these anymore. That company went out of business in Australia. So we use these Danielson boxes. Not quite as sturdy as these, but certainly work great. This is what we keep our bait in, wraps around our waist with a belt. So that works really, really well. And that's what we're going to keep our bait in. And then I'm going to take with me usually some artificial baits too. Like, for example, this gulp bait. I'm going to take some of these gulps with me. I'm also going to have in my bag a few of these Gamakatsu sandworms and eggs to use down at the beach also. And then a little bit of leader material. And I'm going to take all of that stuff and I'm going to put it in this little bag and I'm going to wear this around my neck. That way it's very, very light. It's got everything in it I need. All my sinkers are in here. All my hooks are in here. I might have a lure or two in here. Might occasionally have a fly in here that I'm going to use on the Carolina rig. And that'll all hang around my neck, be very light, very easy for me to carry on the beach. And then last but not least would be my camera. I'm going to make sure that my batteries are charged, my camera is clean, the lens is clean, and I'm going to take that to the sand with me so I can catch and release fish and take some great pictures of fish while I'm there.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to explain to everybody, is that you don't need a ton of stuff, right, Bill? That's the coolest part about this surf fishing thing. And Bill, I know he keeps a little package in his car when he lived in Southern California. When he's going to work, coming home from work, wherever, he's got his little, he doesn't have a forklift size box on the back of his truck to dig through to try to find something he's going to use. He's got his stuff ready. And I know that Jason Cutter does the same thing because of what you taught him over on the website. These guys are cruising around in their car going to and from work or to and from job site, but they're ready to stop on the side of the road and go run out on the surf and throw a line in for a few minutes because it's so accessible, which makes it so bitching for everybody, especially with what's going on right now on the planet Earth. Everybody's kind of setting back. We understand it. Believe me, my sister, Justin, Pablo, Al, Bill, we all see it. We know things are a little scary right now with money. We're all trying to figure out what does the guy we all voted for, he's got a plan, I'm sure. It's just kind of scary right now. We just kind of don't understand what the plan is. But then again, we're not that intelligent. So a lot of people are hanging on to their money right now, waiting to see what the heck's going to happen. But the surf fishing opportunities are so massive. The amount of different things you can do on the surf. So there's really no reason to not go fishing, and it will save your brain a phenomenal amount of stress. If you can go out there, unlock for a few minutes from the garbage that's going on. Oh my gosh. Before we went live, I was reading about the richest man in the world, how he's leaving the White House with his tail between his legs. I just can't even. I'm just like, you guys, how lame. He's leaving with his tail.
He's got a lot going on. He's not like us. He's got a lot going
He's
on.
leaving with his tail between his legs. Oh my God, these people are so out of their flipping minds. And now they think that that little bartender girl from New York that's their second coming of that's who they're going to prop up to be the next president. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get into. I just was just like I had to throw it out there. It's so bizarre what's going on, gang. But this surf fishing thing is so accessible to everyone, and you can go do it for pennies on the dollar compared to getting on a boat and going fishing. And we all need our fishing fix. So that's why I thought it was really important for Bill to break it down how simple it is to be successful. And that Avengers series reel from Okuma, those things you can get them for less than $100 for a fishing reel. You're gonna go catch fish in the surf. That's pretty cool. Yeah, we want a really good fishing rod. We want a really good rod. As far as the reel goes, the Avenger series reel is a good fishing reel. Is it the best? No, but it is for surf fishing, getting sand in your reel, all the different elements. That reel's going to serve you all day, every day. Because, gang, like Bill and I have talked about 100 times, you set your reel down in the sand and it's done. And Kelly Girl's not listening to the show right now, so I'm going to tell you something, Bill. I got 2 brand new Komodo reels. Okay? Brand new. Spooled them up with line. Here's Kelly's got one. I got one. We go down to the beach. Wham, I catch a pargo, probably 5 or 6 pound pargo. I'm on, baby, take a picture. She comes over to the edge of the water and I go, hey, where's your rod? She goes, it's laying over there in the sand. I never even got to use it. I didn't get to use it at all. I never got to use it. It was done. She's all, I just laid it in the sand. I didn't smash it in the sand. I just laid it down there. I'm like, it's done. Gang, that's how quick it can be done. So,
you know, Dave, I took some, one of the state park employees, head of one of the state parks that I do my seminars at. She asked me to take her 2 sons fishing at their park. And I said, I'd love to. So I went down there, took them fishing. One boy was older than the other. One was about 12. The other one was probably about 9. I laid a towel down and I put the rods on the towel and I explained to them, whatever you do, don't put the rod in the water. Don't put it in the sand because the sand will get in there. And when you're done, we can just put it on this towel over here. So they said, okay. So the older kid, who I thought had some pro skills, I gave him my $400 rod and my $120 reel. and I sent him off to the right, and I sent the other one to the left. Well, the one to the left was having a little bit of a problem, and I went down there, I was helping him hook bait and all that. I got him all set, and I turned around to look to the other kid to see how he was doing. He had waded out to this deep, and a huge wave came. And all I could see when the wave broke was the tip of my rod through the top of the wave. And I am not kidding you. He comes in, the reel was having a hard time already after seconds. He puts it on the towel, decides he doesn't want to fish anymore. 45 minutes later, when I leave and walk up to the car, couldn't even turn the handle. It had already completely frozen up.
Yeah.
So live and learn.
And if you guys ask Kelly girl, she won't even remember because I didn't even say anything, gang. You got to pick your battles, and that was just
Really?
not a battle I was willing to go up against. She won't even know that it happened, but I could show you the reel tomorrow morning. I can take it out, show it to you. It looks brand new. It looks brand new. It's been back at the shop twice at Okuma, and they can't. There's nothing they can do. The sand's in the bearings, the sand's everything. And you can't even see the sand. I guess if you had a microscope, you could see it. That's how quickly it can happen. That's all I'm trying to say. And I'm not trying to throw my wife under the bus. And she doesn't even know that it happened because really it's over.
Right.
Once it's in this, it's done. There's nothing you can do. It's over.
Gotta move on.
It's done. So yeah, she wouldn't even know if we talked about it right now. And that's just what happens. And it's no knock on her. It's just people don't know because they don't know. They just think, well, I only laid it down for a second.
Exactly.
That's all
it takes. Or one splash of a wave or sand on your fingers or in the wind. Just one. And these reels that are out now have progressively gotten way better. I mean, God, Dave, if you went back to when you and we took our dads, Mitchell Garcia, out in 1968 and went fishing, if that thing got a tiny bit of sand near it, you would never be able to turn it again. Remember how much grease they used to use inside of them? And it was like glue in there to sand. So it has changed a lot. But like you said, I remember going to Save on Tackle, and I had a big bucket. I literally had a bucket of spinning reels where they weren't working anymore. And I took it in there to Roger, who was the manager then. And he said, what do you need? And I said, I need you guys to fix these reels. And he looked in there and he turned the handle on. He goes, we can't fix these reels. And I said, why not? He said, it will cost you more money to fix them than just to go right over there and buy another reel from me. So that's why you want to keep them out of the sand.
And they won't be fixed because the next cast, that other piece of sand just fell out of the bearing.
Exactly.
It's so bizarre, gang, to think of that. And Bill and I, a couple of years ago, when we first started, we talked about it. When you're next time you're down at the beach and you're standing there in the water and you're looking at the water coming back and forth across your feet, just look at it. It's just full. The water is sand. It's pretty much liquid sand at the beach. It's not water. Same in Cabo. Yep. You can really see it down in Cabo because the water is so clean. But it's liquid sand. So you can't, like in the old days, what we used to do with our old reels, we would just dunk them in the bait tank.
Yeah.
Get them to work. That was how you greased up the old pens. You just dunked them in the bait tank, and then you could cast them a half a mile.
Exactly.
You dunk your reel in the surf. You just did. That's that. That is that. It's over.
And Dave, all of that sand in the surf that is suspended in the water is really, really, really fine.
Right.
All the heavy stuff has fallen to the bottom, so that really fine stuff just kills you. Get you every time. Those bigger chunks probably can't get into the reel. That small stuff that's all lubricated just slides right in there.
Yep. Now, Matt Ryan's absolutely having an absolute fit about a scallop, something you and him talked about. What is this scallop thing?
Swimming scallops in the bay. That were I think they were spawning. and they were just actually coming off the bottom and expelling water, and then that would allow them to almost swim and move. And we were looking at those the other day, like, wow. So those were cockles. So we've got clams, we've got cockles, we got oysters, you got, I mean, a lot of different types of shellfish you're going to find in the bay. And those were cockles. And cockles are that shell that looks like the Shell gas station, the shell that they use that's got the ripples on it. And then it's got kind of a outside ring at the very tail of it. And they were lots of those in there. And so I think I had of the, what are they called, Dave? The inside the harbor that are stuck on all the rocks and the walls.
The oysters.
Once again,
oysters.
And last year I got a really good video of the oysters spawning. And what was happening is they were on the side of the cement next to the docks, and they were squeezing. And what would happen is the males, the milt would come out, this white substance around them, and then the females would compress against the cement and the eggs would come out, and that's how they'd be fertilized. But in the meantime, spotted bay bass by the millions were up there just eating away on that stuff. It was crazy.
Nice. Well, when I was reading what Matt was saying, I thought he was saying not cockles. I thought he was saying cookies. I was like, scallop cookies? What in the heck? I thought maybe he had just arrested someone and got into their stash or something. He was scallop cookies. Wow. Okay. All right. I'm just kidding, Matt. I love you, buddy. Yeah.
Guys like Matt were guys that ruined a couple of my nights in high school.
Yeah, well, you didn't know. Really, honestly, they were doing us a favor. We thought they were ruining
that's true.
They were doing us a favor.
That's
true. And that's something else that Bill and I. Well, Bill, you summed this up perfect before we went live. When we had the interview with Duke Monday, Matt Ryan, Jason, so many, Dan Smith, Justin, Lisa, Bob, all the people that go out fishing all the time, that are on the show all the time, because we're outside, we're seeing so much cool stuff, paying attention. Matt Ryan got to see these cockles swimming around the surf fishing. We can go, every one of us can go on to these stories of all this cool stuff that we see when we're at the beach that we would have never, ever seen if we didn't go outside. I found the weirdest thing floating out at the oil platform. I found a dead sunfish. We posted that this morning. The internet went absolutely Looney Tunes because I wasn't respecting. The thing was dead. The sea lions were throwing it all around. I went and got it out of the water, and I pretended like it was a Frisbee. I made a video. It was going to get 1 million views, but the internet went bananas and said I was disrespecting the fish. So we pulled that video down. We popped up another video of the weirdest salp that I've ever seen. I never seen one before. And that's just one of the things. You just see so much cool stuff by going outside. And like you said, Bill, Duke summed it up perfect. He's 22 years old. He's out there on the water every single day. He's been out there on the water since he was a kid. Sees so much cool stuff. Plus, doing this, getting up, going down to the ocean, going fishing, doing it, you learn a work ethic, which children don't have today. I'm sorry, all of you kids that are 30, 40, 50 pounds overweight, you drink Monsters and Red Bulls all day and do nothing. That is it's the craziest thing I've ever seen. They're drinking Red Bulls and Monsters, sitting in a chair playing a video game. Dude, your heart is going to explode. Your heart,
really?
it's just going to explode. You're doing nothing. I don't get it. And you're whiter than Bill's shirt right now. Get up off the bed or the couch and go outside. You used to see him like guys. You used to see those. Bob Lorman, perfect example. He was the diver. He taught all the police officers in Newport and Dana Point how to dive. He says he saw them swimming scallops all the time in Newport Harbor back in the day. Little button of meat on them. Those are them.
Those
Those are
are
what
them.
we're talking about.
Yeah.
And if
They're
you're
out
one of
there
those
spawning.
kids that sits around and plays video games and you have that beautiful chair and you're drinking Red Bulls and Monsters, what are you doing? Why do you need it? I'm sorry. Why do you need an energy drink to play a video game and you're 20?
It's counterintuitive. You need a low energy drink.
I don't understand. I need a Monster energy drink so I can sit here and play video games. Dude, go outside. You're missing out on the whole world. We talk about it all the time on our show how important it is. It's up to us to take kids fishing. So if your kid's
Absolutely.
sitting there on the couch playing video games, think back to what you were doing when they were younger. What were you doing? You weren't taking them outside. You weren't taking them outside. You weren't teaching them the world. I guarantee you, your skin doesn't look like mine. my kids,
Exactly.
my kids don't have much time to sit around inside. They think that's the biggest waste of time. They hate it when it rains. They hate it when they can't go outside and enjoy the nature. And Duke's the same way. And so many kids, Bill, you and
Mhm.
I, and so many of the people that follow us every day, set it aside and drink energy drinks and play video games. Gang, you're missing it. It's
Mhm.
just, I don't get it. I'm sorry, Bill. I just don't understand it. And those are the same people that are complaining about the richest man in the world stole their social security number.
Are they that 150-year-old guy who's
Yeah.
still getting Social Security? I know
No.
there's so much, that's the thing is like if you don't go out into nature, you'll never be exposed to seeing those things. Like you might see them on a video that somebody else saw them, but and I'm going to tell you a story about one of the most incredible things I have ever seen. We were bringing the boat back from Cabo once, and we were probably about like 50 miles offshore, maybe between where the Uncle Sam Bank is in the ridge, somewhere along there. And we see off in the distance, just like in the movies, this vortex in the water spinning around in a circle like a hurricane, and a big hole in the center of it, like it was going to suck our boat into it. And all this splashing was going on around. It was a couple of miles away. It was crazy looking. And we thought, let's just keep going. And then we thought, we got to go see what this is. It was just too much to go past it. So we got the boat turned and we started making our way to it, and we got fairly close to it, maybe a half a mile away, and we realized it was dolphin or porpoise that were going in a giant circle, and I'm talking about 10 to 30,000 of them. I've never seen that many in my life. I'll never see that many in my life again. And they were going in this giant circle, and because of their movement, they were causing a vortex in the ocean. It was the craziest thing you've ever seen. Well, the second, as you can imagine, they heard the boat, thousands of them turned and came at us. And we turned the boat around, and they followed us for 20 or 30 miles. And I'm not talking about 10 or 15 or 30 of them. We're talking about thousands of them all around the boat, leading us, jumping. You will never see those things from your couch.
No, you won't. But it's accountability. It goes back to accountability. And like we were talking, and you asked me if you could share some of the interview because you were so touched by what Duke,
Mhm.
the man that Duke is at such a young age. He's a real man. And
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. I think more people need to hear that story than hearing me and you and a bunch of my guests that are old talking about fishing. You hear these
Mhm.
younger men like Duke's age that attribute it all back to the way they were raised by their fathers taking them outside or your mother. I don't care if you're a single parent, you got to take your kids outside. You got to, like Duke was saying, go for a hike, go do something. The children are sitting on the couch, melting their brains, drinking energy drinks because you allow that. Because I'm sorry, I'm probably the worst person in the world to give you parenting advice because I only have two sons that are high society people with children that are raising them the right way. So you don't want to listen to me, but you got to get your kids up off the couch, gang, and you got to take them outside. And if you're looking at your kids now and they're 20 years old and they're sitting in their bedroom with the lights off, playing video games all day, you got to contribute that back. I'm sorry, accountability is the thing. So it's time. Those of you with younger kids, get them out. Go outside. You got tonight. Now it stays light out longer. You get off work. We're going for a hike. The way I did it with my kids when they were little, we go out for a hike. If you see a wild animal, you get $1. I know you can't get a kid to do shit for $1 now, so maybe you got to give them $5. Whatever. You got to make it fun. You got to get out there. You got to go do stuff. You got to go outside, gang. We're losing this. It's unbelievable, but we're losing this battle. I saw a comedian the other night said, could you imagine if the commander-in-chief of the United States of America had to just for fun, and it sucks to think of this, but he had to reinstate the draft and we were going to send these kids out that are playing video games? We're done. Gang, we're going to lose. Please, please, please wake up. Please wake up. It's up to you as a parent. My kids are the kids that their friends ask to change the tires because they don't know how. My kids are the kids that are out there changing their oil, rebuilding their carburetor, changing their spark plugs, doing all that stuff. Like you look, perfect example. Let's just go a step further. Look at Justin Botrell. Look at how he's raising Matt and Ryland.
Yep.
Look at those kids. They're out there hunting. They're out there
Yep.
fishing. They're out there cleaning fish. They're out there cutting squid. They're out there rigging. They can't wait to go hunting and go get an animal. They're outside, gang. Plus, when they're not out, they're at home playing sports. They're outside, gang. You can just watch it on our show. You can see it. And then you see a young man like Duke who's on that Royal Star, and they're out there on a 15-day trip. They come back. They got a day at the dock. He's working his ass off. But he took the time to come on to our podcast to explain to young men and women today, what are you waiting for?
Exactly. And one thing about Duke, not to make Duke's head too big at 22 years old, but there are boys, there are men, and then there are men's men. And so he's not a boy and he's not a man. He's a man's man. And the reason he is because of his parents. And like his dad, Tim, said, okay, you're going to work on the boat and you're going to scrub. And I don't care if I own the boat or not. You're no different than the other greenhorn who's on here too. And when you work your way up along the way, if you want to take over the business and you want to drive the boat, you'll be able to do that. But what makes Duke unusual to so many people in our industry is that when Duke got old enough, and he did very well in school, he went to a premier university. And at that university, that liberal university, he learned from other young men and women his own age about what their lifestyles were and what they had done and where they were in life and what their skills and abilities were. And it allowed him to measure that against himself and realize that he had learned a lot of things that put him in a much better position as a young person than so many of the other kids he went to college with. He looked back at what his dad did to him or for him to make him the man he is today. And at 22, he has got more maturity than people I meet at 72. So really a lot to say about the job his mom and dad did on raising him, and about him as a young man, keeping his mind open, working hard, and realizing that everything he was doing was not only testing himself, but was also proving to himself who he was as a person.
Absolutely. It was such a pleasure to have him as a guest on the podcast because, first of all, he reached out to me and said, Dave, is there a chance? Well, he didn't even say Dave. He's such a good young man. He said, Mr. Hansen. And I was like, I can't believe you're calling me that. But I was like, you want to be on my podcast? Here's a 22-year-old man who's got a million things going in his life, and he wanted to be on the podcast. And then it was an honor to listen to him speak. Was just so phenomenal. I mean, you were blown away, Bill. You told me you were blown away. I was blown away, and so many of our audience members were blown away. And if you didn't get a chance to see it, gang, you need to go back and watch it. It's available. It was Monday's podcast. You can listen to it on Spotify on your drive home today. You can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on our website. It's just one of those podcasts where, and if you got your children in your car and they're cruising with you, it's one of those ones you want to listen to. We don't, just like normal, once in a while I get excited and I'll say a bad word, but you very rarely hear us talk any foul language. So it's a cool show to listen to with your children. But hey, we had a man, 22-year-old man on the show who presented himself so eloquently that you all need to see it. You got to go watch it. And you got to show your friends because it was that kind of an interview with a young man who's been there. He blew his shoulder out. He had a chance. He got drafted. He got to go to Loyola.
Dude, he got recruited to the university as a freshman in high school. That's how good he was.
Yeah.
I mean, an excellent athlete. But obviously, the stuff that's in here for him is much more important than his athleticism.
Right. And then when you hear him speak, you don't hear very many 22-year-olds speak the way Duke speaks.
Not at all. And then you know, Lisa says, that's the kind of man I would want for my daughter. I mean, Lisa, I'd give my right leg if that was my son-in-law. Fishing, handsome, tall, hair. He's got all the things that a dad would want his daughter to have. He's got a job.
Oh yeah.
He's got it all.
He's got it. He's got it all.
But yeah, Dave, you know, I was sitting there listening to you guys, really interesting about, you know, all different types of subjects you cover about the clients and sleeping arrangements and what to bring on the boat and the food, all these interesting things. But some of the things that he said just had me riveted to the screen simply because he's bringing up subjects that I, as a parent, think about the way kids are going, as did, I'm sure, my dad and mom, the way that the kids are going nowadays and what direction they're going in and all that. Just such an interesting guy to listen to. And so we're going to see a little bit later today, a short that Dave and I put together with some of the things he talked about. And if you do see it online, please watch it, because I think it'll not only open up your mind to things, but for me personally, made me feel a lot better about his generation.
I can't see the spanner over on Facebook, Mike Lewis, but you know, there's booger eaters. We try to get them as much as we can. But gang, if you, like Bill's saying, if you have an opportunity to go watch, it's only he only was able to do an hour. We didn't go over it all because he had literally, the boat got in from a 15-day trip, and they were flipping the boat. They had just got done fueled. They were doing a bunch of repairs on lights and stuff, and they were leaving in the morning at 5 a.m. So he didn't have a lot of free time, but he wanted to come on the podcast because he saw his dad and he saw Roy on the podcast, and plus he got to be on the podcast a little bit down there when he was gaffing those wahoo, and the guy got the wahoo on the fly rod. I mean, what's going on right now with your saltwater guide is some pretty spectacular things. Elliot and I are just blown away by all the people like Bill Varney and Duke and his father Tim and Roy and all the Justin and Pablo and Al and all the phenomenal content and all the great things that we're putting out that are just absolutely rocking the sport fishing industry in Southern California. And I'm not trying to, believe me, I talk about myself enough. I pat myself on the back enough. But you know what? What we're doing right now, like Duke and I were talking about, it's helping our industry at a time where our industry is really in a bad place right now with the carb situation, with this baloney that they're saying there's no such thing as fossil fuel. The oil that we use on our car to drive our cars, it's the second most abundant liquid on the planet Earth next to water. It makes itself. If you really knew anything about anything, there's no such thing as fossil fuel. It was a made up term by the Vanderbilts back in the 1800s. There's no such thing as fossil fuel. This wasn't made by dinosaurs. This is the second most prevalent liquid on the planet Earth, and it makes itself over and over and over again. We're never going to run out of it as long as we have a planet. But with all the garbage going on and all the lies being fed to you and all the things that are going on and how they want to destroy fishing, and to see someone like Duke who actually understands all the drama, and he's like, we got to get involved in this social media thing, gang. And he's like, there's no one on the West Coast that's doing it better than you, Dave. I'm sorry. I'm just saying. And I go, I know. And the biggest struggle is trying to get these young sport boat captains to get involved because they think they're helping me. And they're like, I'm not going to help that, Dave. Gang, you're helping your industry, you dumbs. You're helping your industry. When I reach out and ask you if you want to come on the podcast, I don't need you on the podcast. Believe me, I can call 100,000 other people that will all be on there in a split second. But I'm like, I owe it to the sport fishing industry because basically my dad's was in it since 1947. So I'm like, let me help these guys out. Let me get somebody to go on their boat. And they're like, I'm not helping Dave Hansen. Don't worry about me, gang. I don't need you. I'm going to be just fine with or without you. You may want to come over here, though, and check some stuff out. Watch what happens. I'm just trying to help the industry. That's all, Bill.
And you know, Dave, that's so true. Like, look at the tuna shows that are on TV. They have opened up the eyes of so many people in the United States, well, around the world, I'm sure, but in the United States about bluefin tuna, about how they're fished for, how there's a market for them, how we can be conservationists when fishing with them. That they have provided so much knowledge. Yeah, the channel that they're on, History Channel, whatever it is, made a lot of money over the years with that, selling commercials. But us as anglers were able to get that information out. So when we came up and we said, hey, there's all these windmills on the East Coast and they're killing all these whales, people on the West Coast who knew nothing about that were able to learn about it, see how it was wrong, figure out what they could do to make it better. It's very, very important to get the information out there.
Yep. Very, very important. And gang, if you guys ride out on a sport boat, you guys go out fishing on some boat, you go to a tackle store, ask them, hey, have you been on your Saltwater Guy website yet? We'll take any. If you're in the industry, I would love to have you on here chit-chatting with us, talking about it, helping us build the industry up, gang. Look around. Look around at who you're thinking of. I'm not trying to take anything away from anybody. I'm just trying to let you know. The amount of views is what matters, gang. And if you're just talking to air, then you're not helping the industry. Try to get with someone who's got some followers, that's got some eyeballs on it. We need to save our industry. It's super important right now at this point. Do you really, in your heart, those of you that don't understand what's going on, think that me getting as politically involved as I got into this sand bass thing was helping me? Then you have to come look at my bank account. You have to come see what happened. By me getting involved as deep as I got involved and by doing what I did, it wasn't helping me. But I knew that if I didn't get involved, there's no one else. No one else was running that flag up the flagpole, gang. I was like, here we go. Let's go. Hoist the flag up. And we even pissed off the people that are trying to help. They're like, whoa, we don't need Dave Hansen. Yeah, you guys do, because you're a bunch of ding-dongs and you don't really know anything about social media. So let's try to help, gang. You got a friend, somebody in the industry that needs some help, wants some people to go fishing with them, get the name out there, show us some cool stuff. I'm here. I'm more than willing to help the industry as much as I can. But believe me, I'll be fine. Whether you're on or not, it's not going to change what Kelly and I are going to eat for dinner tonight. You with your 12 followers ain't going to change what I eat. But tomorrow we got Chad Gerlach with us, owner of Hookup Baits. Chad's joining us because Hookup Baits is kind of a phenomenal. There you go, kind of a phenomenal story. And these lures are unbelievable, gang. You need to hear the story. You need to find out because there's a lot of misconceptions out there about him. I think it'll be great to have him on the show. He's going to join us tomorrow. And then Friday, we may or may not have a special guest because Friday is the day Kelly's son graduates college. So we don't know if we're going to have time for the show because you guys don't understand. I'm a couple of hours ahead of you. So right now here in Oskaloosa, it's already 3:00. I think we'll be at the place by 3:00 watching Riley graduate. So I doubt. If we can do the show Friday, we're going to do the show Friday. If we can't, we can't. And then we're leaving here at 6:00 in the morning. We'll be on a big old jet plane on Saturday morning. And it takes an hour to drive to the airport so we can be in Cabo by noon. So, and then the moment I get back, Bill, I got 2 days in Cabo, and then I'm back on an airplane back up for Don Hansen Day on May 5th.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I'm coming down to Los Brilas on Tuesday.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'll be on the East Cape on Tuesday through Saturday. I'm sorry I'll miss you.
Yeah, you'll miss us, but oh well.
What day are you coming back from Dana Point?
On the 16th. Yeah, I fly back down on the 16th, and then I got 3 weeks at home, and then I'm going to Alaska for 10 days.
It's so tough, all this field research.
It's hard being me.
It's killing you.
Yeah, it's terrible. But hey, thank you all for watching our show today. Hopefully you go over and you check out Bill's stuff that he's got going on at Your Saltwater Guide with his game plans. And if you don't remember what he said about what you need to go surf fishing, every single thing is available over there at Your Saltwater Guide. Bill's bundles are very easy to get to, the surf fishing part of it. All you got to do is give Bill or me a call, and we'll give you a 7-day free look, and then you get to decide if you even think that this whole thing's even worth it. I know a lot of you don't want to have any information. You just want to go wing it. We're cool with that. But, hey, go look at the best fishing website ever made and then find out if, hey, there is really some cool information here, or, God, I'm just sick and tired of listening to this Dave Hansen guy. He's on the dang computer all day, every day. But check it all out because we're giving it to you for free. That's the only thing left in California for free.
And I want to add too, Dave, that don't forget, folks, that, if you're a member, you can call me or text me or however you want to contact me on the phone. Like Matt's asking, hey, Bill, any advice for me at Huntington Beach right now? He knows that he can call me when I get off here in 20 minutes and we'll talk. I talked to Sean last night. I mean, there's numerous Tim, all kinds of people. There's numerous people who call me and say, hey, I'm going down to this beach and I'm going this Saturday. And what should I use for bait? What's biting? Where's a good spot to go? That's what we're here for. That's what we're here for. No reason for you to struggle. No reason for you to be a loser on your own. We'll help you be a winner.
You don't have to suck anymore. And Matt Ryan's going fishing right now. He's in his truck. So when we get off of here in a second here, just pick up the phone, Matt, and call Bill. You got his number. Everybody, thank you all so much. May 15th, Don Hansen Day. I got the roster. I think we're set. I think I got the 20. It's going to be incredible. Wayne and the president of Okuma and the president of product development are coming with us. We're going to have some good giveaways. Promar, we're trying to get Brian. He's thinking he might have to work. I'm going to try to fix that with the owner of the company here right after we're done with the show. Hopefully Brian will join us. It's going to be a great time. We'll have the teams, Team Justin, Team Pablo, Team Al will be all fishing against each other like last year. We're going to have the time of our lives, and then we're all going to meet up at John's Fish Market afterwards for a great dinner. I will see you tomorrow with Chad from Hookup Baits. It's going to be a great show. And then Friday, I don't know, traveling like crazy. We'll make up for it, whatever happens. And then we'll do a show Saturday when we get back to Cabo. Thank you all very, very much for watching the show. And Bill, always a pleasure to have you.